Oh, here's the war against America still being fought. All very pretty. No harm in dressing up in a bit of uniform, but of course you've got a little drummer boy and a little drummer girl I see there today. So obviously you can look at this rather critically if you want. Kids like that are being blown to pieces in Syria. They don't want to be in a nice little town setting, ancient cities like Damascus, one of the oldest cities in the world, and we're still blowing ourselves apart. So celebrating war is a difficult, bit of a conundrum, isn't it? I mean, it's all nice. Pageantry is nice. It's nice to remember history. I love history. I love the 18th century. But the implications of this, it's not all glorious. It's far from glorious. So, no doubt they'll be tuning up soon. Off they're going. Of course, we've got the mix now with modern soldiers up there dressed in their camouflage. I presume that's the local unit. There's Major Pearson was from Yorkshire, of course. So the irony, as we pointed out before on these blogs, is that the actual Jersey people who died, and there were a number of Jersey militiamen who died, they didn't even know who they were. I don't know if they've got their names now, but they didn't even know their identities. It's a very confusing scenario, this. Fighting the Americans. It was the French and the mercenary Rollicor, of course, who were leading the campaign. He tried 2 years before in 1779. He was a part of an expedition which didn't get very far. He was a brutal man. His own soldiers, because they were delayed at Chaussy, they were delayed, so one of the soldiers complained about the food, and another one complained about the cold, so he had one man's head chopped off, and he tied another to the rock, so he drowned when the tide came up. So this is the sort of people you're dealing with. These are the sort of people we're referring to today, so not necessarily a good thing. But there we are, it's pageantry. It's all part of our history, but we need to look at it critically. They go into the sunset. There they go. Well, not quite sunset, it's midday. A little tour around town, no doubt they're heading towards the scene of the battle. Royal Square.
Only just 24. Only just 24. If I ask you for a show of hands, there will be very few hands. If I said all those over 24 show their hands, there will be very few people who couldn't put up their hands because
there's George II up there, like he's seen it before. He was here on the day of the battle. This is in the corner of Columbury, not Columbury, and Green Street, I think that is. There's this corner building here which is called, if it shows today, Pierre Arrivé House. There's a lot of birds flying up there. Now I don't know if Pierre Arrivé Senior used to live here, but he was actually a Guernseyman of Huguenot origin as far as we know. And on this day, 6th of January 1781, he poked his face out of a little cottage down this road here somewhere, and the French troops were going by because they were invading, and he was bayoneted to death. And he's one of the few names which we really know about on that day. There was a number of people killed, a number of Jersey people killed, militiamen and so on. Quite a lot of French people were killed. So today they've been celebrating, if that's the right word. It's more of a celebration than anything in the Royal Square and beyond of the events of that day. It was part during the American War of Independence. And a guerrilla group led by Rollecoeur. He was one of these guys who fight anywhere for money, but he was sort of put up to it by a little private expedition. But of course it had French backing, and of course it was supported by the Americans, because the Channel Islanders were putting out dozens and dozens of little armed ships, privateers, and being very unpleasant. They were capturing and killing lots of Americans and French people and lots of other people who served on those ships. A lot of Irish people, a lot of all nationalities served on those ships for the other side. Quite a few nationalities served on the Jersey ships as well. Very mixed bit of history. Not a very patriotic event from the British point of view. And the painting, of course, which is famous, the death of Major Pearson. But there wasn't previously any memorial to poor old Pierre Arrivé. He was a merchant, so he died. His son took over the business soon afterwards, and there were smugglers and merchants, and his son died a few years later. And his son, so this guy's grandson, became established in Guernsey. In those days you could drift between Guernsey and Jersey without too much difficulty and set up. There were no housing regulations. There were regulations, but these guys, because they were merchants, they could more or less live within the islands wherever they wanted. So his son, the grandson, he became a member of the Guernsey Chamber of Commerce, which was dedicated supposedly to giving up smuggling. But I don't know what happened there. It didn't give up smuggling, of course. And I think he settled later in Bristol, soon afterwards, about 1805, 1810, I think he settled in Bristol. So this is Pierre Arrivé, bayoneted to death somewhere here because he was an innocent bystander, which is what a lot of war is about, innocent bystanders. You see now, when we celebrate glorious death in war, which is my pet hated expression. How can there be glorious death in war? I don't think there can. But it's celebrated on that basis. So this guy just stuck his nose out to see what was going on, and like they are in Syria, by the thousands being blown up. Afghanistan, Iraq, it's what happens all over the world. We've learnt nothing from it. But there we are, at least he's got a building, and rather like when the guns were fired in the Royal Square just now, all the birds, all the pigeons, I suppose those are doves, all flew up in the air, so the world knew the muskets were going off, the guns were being fired. But it's a co-op now, here are look. A cooperative, peaceful activity. So it's your death day for Pierre Arrivé, very sad.